Hello and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our UFC 282 preview. Blachowicz versus Ankalaev for the light heavyweight title. Vacant light heavyweight title, I must say. Last pay-per-view of the year. Tom, do you feel like this is a suitable capper for the year? A summation of the UFC this year?
I find it to be an interesting card, to be honest with you, Joe, because it's packed with bangers, but they're all a little bit low-key in how they're addressing it. You know, it's a lot of energy going towards Paddy, of course. He is the big star, the man on the stage, kind of in the co-main. But I feel like they're taking the limelight away from some fights that really you could make a lot more of.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think there is, on this main card, 4 out of the 5 fights I think are good. I think that's fair to say. Like
throwing some you're not throwing shade at Ponzinibbio, Joe.
Absolutely not, never. That's an original boy of me and you. Like that's an original Joe and Tom boy. Listen, listeners, me and Tom, forget all this guff. We're going to go straight into it. We're going to preview this main card here. We're going to make predictions for each fight. We're going to pick a fighter who we think is going to win. And if we get that correct, we get 1 point. And we're going to choose the method as well, and that's another point. 2 points on offer each fight. 10 points on offer each. In total, Tom is the current defending champion, and this is the last event of the year for him to defend it this year. He feels confident, and let me tell you, listeners, I'm super confident, okay? I feel like I see the opportunities there. He's slipping. You know, he's just moved house. His head's not in the game, but he's got that poker face, listeners. Tom? No malarkey.
Joe, I thrive in the chaos, Joe, all right? And you saw me scrambling. You might have seen some pen action, committing the picks to paper. Yeah. But I've been thinking about these fights. I've been tossing them over in my head. Moving the house or not, I'm ready to go.
All right.
I'm going to lock it down. What I'm saying to you, Joe, that little section there where you say, Tom is the reigning champ, I'm saying just record that. Just record it, save yourself the 5 seconds, and just put it in the intro.
All right, fair enough. Listeners, let's get into it. Main event, we're going to start with Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev for the vacant light heavyweight title. We went over it not last week, but the week before about what happened. No, it was last week, sorry. Where Yuri Prochazka having to vacate his title. Dana gave a little bit more information about that injury, Tom. Dislocated his shoulder in training, and his teammates tried to pop it back in, which in turn wrecked it completely. Listeners and anyone in general who does this, pops their shoulder out, don't try and push it back in. You're not a medical professional, unless you are a medical professional. Crazy stuff. Screwing Glover Teixeira out of a title shot. But instead,
hold on. You're creating narrative there, Joe. Did they screw Glover?
Well,
we did go over this.
Glover screwed Clover. Yeah, this is it's a real Bret Hart talk now. Listen, forget all this. We got a actually fascinating main event here. Blachowicz versus Ankalaev. I feel the fans are a bit cold on this, but I'm red hot. Tom, I love this fight personally. What about you?
Yeah, well, on a personal level, like the personalities of the fighters, I think that's what's kind of turning the fans off. Yeah, that's it. I mean, describe Ankalaev in 3 words, Joe.
He is a man from Russia with the Abraham Lincoln beard. And that's all I've got.
So you're picking Ankalaev. I've got it.
Okay.
No, I mean, that's just it. We did get a little bit of him on the ccountdown. He was in Dagestan. He was in the mountains. He was talking about the brotherhood and the big plan. We've seen that story before. We know how it ends, Joe. But with Ankalaev, it's not the Dagestani handcuffs. It's not the top pressure on the mat.
No.
It's those hands.
Yeah, very slick hands. Yeah, it's the stand-up. His wrestling is there, mostly in a defensive way. He's got tremendous takedown defense, around about 90% takedown defense. And the ground and pound, which is ferocious. We saw with the Anthony Smith fight where really hammered him with that ground and pound. Smith then claiming he dislocated his ankle, but he really wanted out of that fight, I feel like. He was just had enough of that. No more of that ground and pound. But yeah, it's going to be on the feet that's the real challenge here. Ankalaev sort of switches between both stances. It'll be interesting to see if he stays in southpaw, because Jan Blachowicz has quite success about rangy southpaws. I'm thinking Dom Reyes, and I'm thinking Israel Adesanya, in which Blachowicz kind of flourished in both of those fights, Tom.
Yeah, those are two standout displays. I think the standout displays of the career of Jan Blachowicz, if we're honest. And both those fights stick in the memory. The shark bite, that kicking to the open side on Reyes.
Yeah.
Tore him apart.
Yeah, it was... Well, what Blachowicz does is that he'll sort of throw a combination, because he stands in orthodox. So if you come into him, he wants everything to be in boxing range, Blachowicz. And how he actually does that is by doing the rare thing in the UFC, which is checking leg kicks. He's very good at checking leg kicks, which then draws fighters into him, particularly the rangy strikers, brings them into boxing range, and then he can unload either the left hook to intercept or combination, the 1-2 combination, step through so that he's then in southpaw, and then throw the left body kick from there. He ends a lot of combinations with the left body kick. Reyes found that out. Adesanya found that out, and I think Ankalaev is going to see that as well. I think Jan is a tricky guy to beat unless you take him down, because Jan Blachowicz, if he gets taken down once in a fight, Tom, he has a record of 2 wins and 5 defeats, and we saw that against Glover, where Glover smashed him on the ground. I think if Ankalaev gets drawn into boxing range, that will actually open something up for Ankalaev, which is the takedowns. It's going to be a lot closer to him. He's going to be able to grab Jan and potentially take him down from there. Yeah, that's kind of like the technical X's and O's breakdown that I can sort of see and feel for this fight. Is there anything you feel I've missed there?
No, a very interesting stat you produced there with how Jan fares on the mat after being taken down. We do have to highlight, though, those losses, most of them, they're a different Jan Blachowicz. This is the journeyman Jan from 5 years ago. Now we're talking about Polish Power, Corey Anderson, Dominic Reyes, Jacare, Israel. They've all fallen. And then, of course, unfortunately, Rakic was Jan's last fight, where Rakic got injured. Don't really give any credit to Blachowicz there.
You don't? I do. I think the leg kicks really exacerbated the problem for Rakic. He did go into that fight injured, but then that was his choice to go in there.
I mean, before the fight ending, was that a standout display for Blachowicz? Was it in that tier with
first round? First round was good.
Reyes?
First round was good. Second round was Rakic.
I was ready to see more of that fight, Joe.
Yeah, same.
But we might get it if Jan can go out there and do it. Now, highlighting the wrestling game, I mean, it's quite hard to know who to give the advantage to there. And my question to you would be, who is going to shoot first? Are we going to see one of them shoot? Do they shoot only if they're having trouble on the feet? I think both men would fancy a stand-up fight. And a shot, takedown, mixing that game in, I think that would suggest that they're having problems on the feet, or they need to swing around in their favour. Yeah,
it's interesting because statistics-wise, they're very similar. Like grappling-wise, Jan takes 1.08 takedowns per 15 minutes, Ankalaev 0.94. Jan's takedown accuracy is better, 53% compared to Ankalaev's 33%. So, but the things with Ankalaev, when he goes for takedowns, it's like it's not the first takedown that gets someone. It's the chaining them together that gets the takedowns. And it's maybe a bit misleading, those failed takedowns, because it's not the first one that gets you, it's the third or the fourth attempt in that chain of takedown attempts. And also, it's the opening the hands up from there. However, as you've pointed out, this is a different Jan Blachowicz. Like, he is a different fighter now. His takedown defense has improved, admittedly against Glover. Something seemed to have been off with him in that fight, but Glover took advantage of that. And Glover, on the mat, there is very few as good as him in the light heavyweight division right now. In fact, I would say no one, to be honest with you.
I mean, Jan was just the latest in a long line of men who've fallen victim to the boa constrictor. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Joe. Like you said, they're well matched. My fear for this fight is going to be an awkward, at-range kind of point scoring. I'm thinking Ankalaev versus Thiago Santos. I'm worried about getting a fight like that. Can you tell me and the fans that's not going to be the fight we'll see?
I don't
think... Is there going to be a finish?
I don't know about a finish, but I think it's gonna. I think hopefully, because I do see that fear as well. Having said that, though, Santos did drop Ankalaev. I think it was in the 3rd round, which then meant Ankalaev really was cautious in that 4th and 5th and picked off Santos from there. But Jan Blachowicz is not Thiago Santos.
That's my prediction for this fight right there. You've just called it.
Really?
So I'm saying, look, he feels a bit of that Polish power. He's like, hold on, brother.
Yeah.
I don't need no smoke.
Hold on, I'm not scrapping, brother. Like that's yeah.
I'm out pointing you, and I'm on my bicycle for the rest of the fight. I'm picking Ankalaev by decision.
Yeah, same here. Ankalaev by decision for me. There is a sense with him that he feels.
You disappoint me, Joe.
I'm sorry, but there is a sense with me that he feels inevitable as a champion, and I think him as champion as well. I think might lead to a bit of stability at the top of light heavyweight. I think that if Jan wins it, Glover seems to be next. Dana has said as much. Yuri's going to be back after that as well. Jamahal Hill potentially going to be in there as well. Do you see Jan defeating all 3 of those guys?
Then he enters the pantheon, doesn't he? He gets in the conversation with a run like that, getting the belt back and knocking off the top of the division again.
Yeah.
Oof.
That would be major.
But do you see Ankalaev standing up to those tests?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if you do.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think he's that skillful, and I think he's that talented. Yeah.
All right, it's going on a throw pillow, Joe. That's yeah. I don't know. I'm not 100%. He's a man who's been lurking. He's been building slowly. For me, I'm looking at those performances against Krylov, against Özdemir, Thiago Santos, and there hasn't been a standout display for me. Something that makes me go, wow. This guy's a problem. He's going to rule the division.
The interesting thing was the Özdemir one, which was where he dropped Özdemir in the 1st round, and he was clearly getting the better of him, and then he just cruised round 2 and 3. He doesn't seem like a man too bothered about getting finishes, and it is more about getting the win, that he's not going to put himself in dangerous situations. And I think maybe a guy like Yuri would be the guy to potentially cause Ankalaev problems, just him pressing forward.
Well, taking that fight is a dangerous situation.
Yeah, for sure. For anyone. Yuri is just a storm, basically. But yeah, I've gone for an Ankalaev decision. I think hopefully it ramps up rounds from like the 2nd round onwards. I think the 1st round's going to be a bit touchy-feely, get themselves through it, maybe land a couple shots. But if Jan presses the action, which I would like to see, Ankalaev pressed here, could be in for a banger. Now,
fingers crossed on that one, yeah.
Fingers crossed. Now, let's get to... Well, could you call this a co-main event, or is it just another fight on the card? Because calling this a co-main event is a bit strong, isn't it? It's a bit rich for whatever this fight is, don't you think?
Well, Joe, yeah, it's dawning on me now that this is the fight you were talking about. You said Paddy Pimblett shouldn't be on the main card?
No. I didn't say that.
We're saying this is a bad matchup?
I think this is not as exciting as the other 4 fights on this card. And I think by quite a bit, to be honest. Because we got Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon in the lightweight division. And the thing is that Pimblett's getting this push that guys like Conor McGregor got, Israel Adesanya got, champions, superstars. And I just don't think he's as good as them. I just don't think he's that good. And when you get to that level of promotion, and I don't think you're that good, it kind of makes the fight feel a little bit off to me. He's getting this level of push, and he's facing Jared Gordon. It's not like he's facing, who's someone in that lightweight rankings where you're like, oh, this could be... Like if he was facing like Terence McKinney or something.
How long was it before Conor actually fought a legitimate challenger?
Didn't he get... Well, he got injured against Holloway, though. That's the problem. So he had that year off. But the Poirier fight, which was his 4th or 5th fight in the... I think... Okay. If Pimblett blows the doors off of Gordon,
I've got to stop you right now,
yeah,
Joe. I'm not listening to this. We've seen Paddy fight 3 times in the UFC. He's had rock and roll, rock star performances.
Yeah.
3 performances of the nights. Last time out in London, I picked Jordan Levitt to win that fight.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting test for Paddy.
Yeah.
And, smoked him, let's be honest.
Smoked is a strong word there.
What, delivered the man's first finish in his career?
No, he'd been defeated before that.
No, he lost to Puelles by decision.
Yeah.
He'd never been subnod than that.
Oh, right, sorry.
He didn't acknowledge that as even a possibility, Levitt. And Paddy tied that arm up, got the choke in. Amazing. With all the pressure that was on him, we heard the story. Unfortunately, he lost a close companion of him. He'd had a lot of pressure. He's in London. Like you said, the hype train is blowing. I thought that was an amazing moment, Joe. That for me, I've been unwilling to get on with the whole Paddy train. But come on, memories of the year. That speech he gave, talking about mental health.
Yeah, and then he follows it up this week by, in the press conference, telling Topuria to speak English and calling him a mongrel. He's done a pretty terrible job this week of promoting himself. And the whole beef with Ariel Helwani, where I got this. This is a warning for anyone. If you go into it with Ariel Helwani, make sure you have your ammunition ready, because he's coming for you and he'll take your head off. Do not get into a media battle with Ariel Helwani, basically.
I think we should explain this to the fans. He had Dana White of all people, the kingpin himself. Took the opportunity on a podcast, was it, for Paddy?
Yeah.
His podcast, got Dana on there, and he called out Helwani for making money off the fighters.
Yeah.
Right, and he was unwilling to go in and give him his time, knowing that Helwani would not be paying him for the pleasure of that, and he says he gets paid for those kind of appearances. Helwani, he didn't respond well to that.
No.
You think there's any credence to what Paddy said? Is there any element of that? He's totally in the wrong there.
He's in the wrong. Helwani's a journalist. Okay. And Paddy basically said, because there was a voice message that Helwani played where Paddy was just like, here, mate, I'm in New York, let's meet up, blah, blah, blah. And Helwani, because he's a journalist, this guy wants an interview, he wants to come on the show. He has a level of disconnect with these guys. Whereas Paddy's saying, well, I just wanted to meet up for a drink and have something to eat. Which I think is just a bit of a lame excuse, to be honest with you. I think that's definitely not the case. And I don't know, I just think that he went about it the wrong way. Again, maybe I'm being a bit sensitive here, Tom, but calling Helwani, who is Jewish, a rodent, kind of struck me as a bit odd as well.
Yeah, he has made some uncomfortable comments for sure.
And then did you see the ones towards Magomed Ankalaev from in the past? Pretty horrible, to be honest. Ankalaev represents the UK, was proud to represent the UK, and Paddy's just like, you're not from the UK, you don't get to choose to represent us, why don't you represent your own country, sort of thing. I was just like, oh, bro, this is not a lane you want to go down.
No.
And then you say all this stuff about mental health and whatnot.
So it sounds like you're rooting for Jared Gordon, a man who's come through his own adversity. He seems to have a very legitimate story. Ex-addict, been through rehab, lost it all, been on the street, heroin, very dark place.
Yeah.
Found MMA, found sobriety, got his partner back, and he's been on a bit of a run in the UFC.
Yeah, he's got actually good names on his record, wins and losses of guys that he's fought. I mean, the best wins, you're probably looking at Joe Solecki, Leonardo Santos, Mikel Quinones. But, he's fought Charles Oliveira, fought Grant Dawson. That Dawson fight as well, he got out-grappled in the first and second round, and he did get finished in the third. But that third round, he came out and he really did put it on Dawson.
Who's good, Joe.
He's really good. He's really good. He put it on Dawson, roasted him at the ribs, land into the body hard from there. And that's what I expect Gordon to do in this fight. Paddy's the taller, rangier fighter. I expect Gordon to try and get inside, get towards the body shots, tiring Paddy out from there. The thing is, though, you don't want to get too close because Paddy's great skill is grappling. And I think his back attacks are very good. We've
certainly seen that in his run so far, Joe.
For sure.
But, But Paddy hits hard.
He does hit hard. He's not a refined striker. Let's put it that way. And his output is, it's maybe a bit lower than what you think it is. 4.19 strikes landed per minute, but it tends to be more waiting and then throwing in bunches. He also tends to start exchanges or start the striking game plan through kicking. So it's like lead left kick to the body, and then the next kick is up to the head, but it's the same movement, so he sort of whips it up. He's landed that in all of his UFC fights so far, I believe. And I expect him to do the same here against Gordon. And I expect him to try and keep that range for a while, sort of keep Gordon at arm's length, jabbing him at range, kicks at range, because Gordon won't want to sort of go to the mat unless he can get a strong top position from there. I don't know. I just feel like the caliber of opposition Paddy's faced has not been that great, nor should it be. So it's hard for me to say how good he actually is or is potentially going to be. I think that's fair, don't you think?
I think it's fair, Joe, but I think it's just the wrong question at this time.
What's the question?
The thing is, the man is sore and hot. He's don't have to position him towards a title run. He's not even entered the rankings yet.
No.
He's establishing himself in the UFC, establishing himself as a personality and a brand. Okay, of course we don't subscribe to that. These hardcore fans that listen to Hold On, I'm Talking Blood, I'm sure they don't either.
No.
But for me, I'm not looking to throw Paddy in against some of the killers out there. I want to see him build up a bit of a backstory, get established. This is a co-main event. I think Gordon certainly doesn't represent a step down in competition. No. It's a man who's fought now, what are we looking at? 10 times in the UFC.
Yeah. No, I think this is an appropriate step up.
Right. So how does it go? How does it end?
I'm going to be a bit conservative here. I guess this isn't actually conservative. I'm going to go for a Pimblett submission. Right. I think he will be able to pick Gordon off at range. Probably maybe in the second round, I expect the finish to happen. That's sort of what my gut is saying. It seems to be the best way for Pimblett to get wins against these guys at this level, but yeah, we just have to wait and see. If he struggles to a decision victory, though, I think there's going to be a bit of all right, hold on, let's cool our jets on this guy a bit. But I'm happy to give him the O'Malley push, give him another slow rise. Let's find some. Where's Vince Pinchel? Let's get him out there.
Well, look at Sean O'Malley now, Joe.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, though, O'Malley's striking is better than Pimblett's anything.
Yes, agreed.
I think O'Malley's
agreed, especially when you combine it with his physique down at bantamweight, his range, his height. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that Pimblett can't go further. I'm a little bit disappointed to designate you this, Joe, but I'm getting hater vibes. I'm getting hater vibes. You're talking about Jared Gordon here. 10 fights in the UFC. Not been an easy matchup for most guys. No. And you're already saying Paddy goes out and subs him. That's your expectation. And you're telling me that won't mean anything. That's not worth very much.
No. I think that is... No,
in the co-main...
An appropriate step up is what I've called it. It's an appropriate step up if he is going to be on this journey towards the rankings and superstardom.
But it isn't that though, is it, Joe? He is already on the run to superstardom. That was a real massive moment earlier this year in London.
For sure.
The rankings, that's another thing.
Yeah,
that's another thing.
Well, they're going to wait.
Easy boy.
They're going to wait. They're going to slip him in at the rankings at the right time, and then they're going to see, is there a sit-in target we can get further up? Yeah, we got one. Dan Hooker, you're suddenly ranked number 2 in the division. Oh, you're facing Pimblett.
Who'd you pick there?
Oh, Hooker all day, every day. But it's not even close. Pimblett versus Hooker. Come on. Hooker in that last fight looked kind of rejuvenated.
All right, hold on. Before the Puelles fight, you picked Puelles. Let me just remind you.
Yeah, for sure. That. I didn't expect Puelles to change career mid-fight, but that's that's another issue. Yeah, no, I would pick Hooker. What, on the feet? On the feet? No.
On the mat, I think Puka's no slouch on the mat.
No, for sure. Like, definitely not. And also a guy where you can get a sub in on him, and he's just not tapping either. So he'll just tough it out. Anyway, Tom, I've Pimblett decision. What have you gone for?
Are you changing?
No, I chose submission.
You just said decision then.
No, I said submission. Don't play your games for me.
Joe, I'm the champ. This is what you got to do to win, bro.
This is like the Dutch versus Argentina in the penalty shootout, isn't it? You're going to get in my face as I'm walking up to the ball. Come on, let's hear it.
This is me trying to nullify you, Joe, because I've picked Paddy to win by decision.
Oh
yeah, I have, and I actually see a fight on slightly different terms to you. I think they will trade on the feet. I think it will get a bit wild in there. I think they'll neutralise each other in the grappling department. I'm seeing that a fight much like, when Paddy swanged and banged that fella.
Vendramini.
Yeah. I'm looking for some of that action, but I think that Jared can stand up to that kind of test. Of course, they will have some grappling exchanges. I think Paddy's going to edge him out.
Fair enough. I think that's a fair shout there. Right. Next on the card. Well, one of our original boys, Santiago Ponzinibbio, is back. He's no longer facing Robbie Lawler, who dropped out on short notice at a catch weight of 180. He faces Alex Morono, who comes in. Morono's on a 4-fight win streak. The most significant name on there being, Cerrone at the start of it? This is... Wow. I know, that was the end of Cerrone as well. Mickey Gall... Matt Semmelsberger, David Zawada, it's not a killer's row, but Ponzinibbio would be the most legitimate one on there, don't you think?
Certainly would be. It's just a question of where is Pons at now, Joe? He's at the back end of the career, 36. He's been in some wars. Let me tell you.
Are you thinking about that Baeza one?
Absolutely. I'm thinking, and that was kind of vintage Pons. It looked like he was back after the kind of shock knockout that he came down to against the Leech.
Yeah.
After nearly 3 years out. Unfortunately, he's gone on to fight Jeff Neal and Michel Pereira.
2 split decisions,
lost both
though.
of them. I felt like he lost those fights.
Yeah, same here. Yeah. The Pereira one, I didn't see any controversy in that at all. I thought Pereira won that quite convincingly. Yeah,
but they were both fights that 5 years ago Pons would revel.
Oh my god, it would have been the perfect Pons fight in a way. I mean, we always sometimes reference this as the Magny fight where he absolutely beat the brakes off of him. He destroyed Magny in that fight.
I wanted Magny retired from the UFC on medical grounds.
It was that bad.
Was a beat down.
Do you remember the leg kicks? The leg kicks that he was just ferocious
in front of the home crowd in Buenos Aires. Yeah. That was really the peak for Pons. Unfortunately, had huge injury issues. I think.
Well, remember he was
right in saying he nearly died.
Yeah,
I'm right in saying
that. It was that bad. Remember when he was supposed to face Kamaru as well, and they were both on the come up. It was just like, oh my god, that would have been a stonking fight. But instead, he's got Morono, a guy who it's kind of hard to break down because he's in the same way of Jared Gordon, a bit of an all-rounder. Doesn't really... He's got kind of an awkward, herky-jerky striking style as well. I know you're laughing, but it is true. It's not like Pons who throws from a tight guard and hooks and leg kicks at the end of combinations. It's kind of single shots, coming at awkward angles. I think Morono... Also for Morono, if you're his coach going into this is almost like a free hit, isn't it? Going against Ponzinibbio on this short notice. So you can throw caution to the wind if you want, or you can just try and sneak out a decision victory here. Personally though, Tom, I see it. I see the hurricane coming. Ponzinibbio by knockout. I'm calling it, brother. I'm calling it.
Love that, Joe.
Yes.
Love that. We want to see it. Give the fans what they want. I mean, he appreciated him in the press conference.
Yeah.
Largely disappointing press conference. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah.
But Pons he told us what he was all about. He just wants to get in there. He wants to bang. And let him bang, Joe. Let him in. Let him fight. 36. He's still got a little bit more in the tank.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at Jeff Neal and Michel Pereira. Both really physical guys with great hands, very athletic. And no shame in kind of wilting under that heat. Alex Morono doesn't have that heat. He can't
No.
bring it to bear. And I see Pons coming out victorious as well. I'm hoping for some swanging and banging.
What method?
Well, what we've seen so far from Morono, outside of the Chaos fight back in 2020, where Chaos, he was streaking there and he knocked him out in the first round. Morono's been able to take a punch.
Yeah.
And I think he'll need to do that here, and will be able to, given Pons' slightly diminished status. I still expect Pons to win a decision, though.
Fair enough. Right. Now, let's go to the next fight on the card. There's a lot of narratives swirling around this fight. Darren Till faces Dricuss Du Plessis in the middleweight division. Till, his first fight in 14 months. The last one was against Derek Brunson. Since then, he's gone off and trained with Khamzat Chimaev. He's become friends with him. And that's about it, really, for the last year or so. Faces Du Plessis. Du Plessis, a bit of a hardcore MMA fan favourite. You know, fought in KSW, beat Roberto Soldic in KSW. Du Plessis at the time was middleweight champ. He went down to welterweight and beat Soldic, which was quite something. Soldic then in the rematch beat the tar off of Du Plessis almost as punishment. And Du Plessis then comes into the UFC, and he's certainly something, isn't he, Tom? A lot of straight line running, a lot of long combinations where it doesn't just like throws a 1-2 and it's like, wait, hold on, why is there a 5th, 6th, 7th shot coming my way? Like, he seems to just keep going, even though he looks exhausted most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if anybody wants to see what Du Plessis is all about, just go back and watch his fight against Brad Tavares.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, great fight. Great fight. And Brad Tavares, I think, the definition of a top 15 gatekeeper. We said it here before.
Yeah.
A solid test. And it was too much for him. Du Plessis running in those straight lines, wanging hooks.
Yeah.
He's there to be countered, Joe. Darren Till is a counter-puncher, a more methodical striker, a man who can step off the center line. Sounds like made to be for Till to come back against Dricuss Du Plessis.
I guess so. I mean, it depends on how much you favour someone's counter-striking skills, though, isn't it? Because it's like, surely then for Du Plessis, a counter-striker is what he wants, because it's just a guy that's going to invite him on to do exactly what he wants from there. I mean, can I share the strikes landed per minute? Can you guess the fighter based off this? Du Plessis 6.55. Oh, I've just told you who it is. Du Plessis 6.55. Till 2.26 strikes landed per minute. That's poor. That's very, very low. Very low.
But you think about the type of striking engagements that he's having. You think about fights against guys like Whittaker, you know, like really high IQ fights. Even the fight against Wonderboy, exactly. That's another tactical exchange. You know, there are not many opportunities to land strikes. You've got to be so careful on your defense. It's a totally different type of fight to Brad Tavares, Joe.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, I'm just gonna outman you. I'm gonna outgun you. I'm gonna bring my cannons. You're gonna bring yours, and we'll see what's left at the end.
Can we talk about the narrative around Till? He's on a bad run. You know, since the Wonderboy win, it was the loss to Woodley in the welterweight title fight, knockout by Masvidal, split decision win over Gastelum. I felt that was a clear decision win for Till, and it was weird the scoring on that. Decision loss to Whittaker, and then a sub defeat to Derek Brunson. How many guys come back from that sort of run to put it together and become a contender? Not many.
What? Well, I think we previously on the pod, just for full disclosure for the listeners, we've already ruled Till out of being the champion at middleweight.
Well, particularly now Pereira's there. Jesus Christ. Like Till talks about him being one of like the best, most intelligent strikers in the division and in the UFC. He would get smoked by Pereira. Let's be honest. I think Pereira might even smash him within a round or two. I don't think it'd be particularly close, would it?
No, I suspect not. So, definitely I'm not looking at Till moving into that conversation, but he's still got more to offer. He's still just leaving his 20s. I just wonder the place he's in. I listened to a couple of interviews with him. he's a very different Darren Till to the man who was unstoppable back at welterweight, the man who caught that hype, the man who was going to, unify the belts at welterweight, middleweight. Think about light heavyweight.
as well.
So big, right?
Yeah.
That's a very long time ago. He's definitely diminished in confidence. That's probably a good thing. He's been humbled. He's ready to get in there and train with guys like Marvin Vettori, at Tiger Muay Thai. Found that very interesting. Those guys have been working together after the whole orc head thing when they were making a fight. So I just wonder how integral is that kind of confidence that he had to him bringing it in a fight.
Well, I think we're going to see this. Like, if this humble version of Till gets it done against Du Plessis and does it in style, then maybe he has actually turned a corner and, acknowledged maybe there was something that was missing within him, and that sort of armor-plated confidence wasn't the thing that was going to get him there. Maybe it was humility that was always the thing that was going to get him there. Some guys just can talk themselves into wins. I feel like they just have the confidence and know what they're going to do. Whereas I think Till is willing to acknowledge the danger of what he's doing out there.
Now, certainly is.
That's what I'm saying.
Now he's felt it. Yeah. Well, he's had to.
Yeah.
He's had to after those 4 losses you mentioned. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but can we just have a quick look at those losses? Because I just want to think about the narrative going in here. Because, I'm seeing comments about Till being washed. I'm pondering it myself. Obviously got injured again in the fight camp. People talking about he wants to pull out, doesn't want to fight. Yeah. Now, look, Joe, he fought Tyron Woodley in a different era of Tyron Woodley. When Tyron Woodley was the champ, he was beating Woodley in the first round.
Was he?
Am I?
You've misremembered that. You've misremembered that. Yeah, Woodley won that first round.
Ooh. Yeah. All right, that's one for the diehards to go and watch back. Brought Darren Till to a thundering halt in the second with a huge classic Tyron Woodley shot. Yeah. Woodley's last great performance. Okay, then went in against Masvidal. A good first round. He was winning that first round.
Yeah, for sure. Masvidal started to turn it around at the end, but Till won that first round.
And then stepped into that huge straight right, wasn't it? That put him down in London.
No, it was like a step in. He sort of like ran up because had like a step up combo where he threw a right hook and then a left behind it, and the left basically
caught him at the end of the punch.
Caught him at the end of the punch until he put his hands out and he had his chin up. Yeah.
And starched him in London. Thunderous loss in front of the home crowd, silenced them. That was one of those huge moments.
The head banging off the cage floor, and you can hear it ringing out around the arena. Yeah. Disgusting. Anyway, continue.
Kelvin Gastelum covered that one. That was a good display.
Yep. Fought well
against Whittaker in his next fight, Joe.
First round, won the first round. Dropped Whittaker.
Exactly. And Whittaker really had to fight kind of a bit within himself, to win that fight. It was a real tactical exchange.
Yeah, he dropped Till in the second and then utilised the wrestling and distance kicks in 3 and 4.
He showed his quality. And his quality is as good as you can get unless you are a kickboxer from
New Zealand. Yes.
or potentially Brazil. Who knows? And then, of course, it was the loss of the wrestler, the loss to Brunson. He said he was injured going in there.
Well, I remember that fight. Just before that finish in the third round, Till landed a couple combos on Brunson that rocked him. And if Till had separated and got a bit of distance, charging in, I think he could have potentially finished Brunson in there. So are you suggesting that maybe it's not as bad as we think for Darren Till?
I'm hoping. And I think there's a little bit, you got a bit of revision. You got to look at that. And then you think Du Plessis. Now, the caliber of Du Plessis and the way that he fights, I'd love to believe this is a perfect matchup for Till. I think this is the defining question. He loses this fight and we've had all our questions answered. Yeah. I think he should beat Du Plessis.
Do you reckon?
Yes. I think he should.
He should, right.
But I picked Du Plessis to knock Darren Till out.
Oh, my words. Really?
Yeah.
He's just going to throw some wild shot and just get him out there?
I just think he's going to blow him away, the big cannons. Yeah. I think if Till's is a confidence fighter, if he does have those memories of those past losses, and I think he does, Joe, I think it was a big loss for him to take, particularly the Woodley and Masvidal losses. He says he's fighting fit. I think he's one of those guys often carrying injuries, and they worry him. They're in his head. And I think when he starts to get a herd in from Du Plessis, who we haven't talked much about, but, I mean, we said the word cannons. I think that sums it up.
Pretty much.
He swangs, Joe. He's a juicy boy.
Yeah.
Big hands.
Yeah, he's
There's
a
not
big
much
man.
more to it.
Yeah.
He marches forwards. Full athleticism.
Yeah, you've slightly winded me there with your pick because I've gone for Du Plessis by decision. I think this is going to be an all-out war battle of a fight, and I cannot wait to see. It's one of those where I can visualize it, and I'm visualizing Conor McGregor on Jose Aldo, where Du Plessis charges in and there's a left hand waiting for him and sleeps him. And then there's also one where that happens and Du Plessis just walks through it. It's just like, all right, well, I guess gone one line, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to come straight back. And I could see Till winning maybe the first round. And then he's like, God, I can't get this guy out of there. And Du Plessis just kind of like, oh God, I'm so tired, but I've got to keep going in that straight line. It's just like, I'm throwing ones and twos. I'm throwing a high kick, and then I'm going to do a teep, and then I'm going to step in elbow, and I'm 10 yards away.
Physicality. It's just explosion after explosion.
It's a runaway. It's a train, and that's too much. That steam builds up. There's no strike action that's stopping that train. It is rolling.
Bro, get off the tracks, you know. Yeah. And Brad Tavares, he was enjoying that fight until he wasn't. Until that train just kept chugging and eventually ran through him.
Who wins, Tavares or Till?
Till.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes, because Tavares doesn't have the big weapon that Du Plessis does. I just don't think... I think Du Plessis can hurt Till in a way that Brad Tavares can't.
Do you think... Well, yeah... So you think he's going to knock him out, my word? Do you think it's going to be early? Or do you think it's going to be like a late one, tiring him out?
I'm a bit scared. I mean, Du Plessis, he really has... It's the explosion there. I've got glimpses of Pavlovich versus Taito Ivasa. Yeah. Should we talk about that briefly? My word, Pavlovich, give him the title shot right now.
Holy shit. Oh my word. That guy is terrifying.
That was just an absolute brutalising of Taito Ivasa. This happened last Saturday. We didn't get to talk about it, but my word, we talked about it on the pod. That was a possibility. But to do it like that, Joe. Well, Ivasa
we both picked,
in 10 seconds.
Yeah, he was done. Like, cooked straight away.
He was leaking from everywhere.
He looked like he'd been in a 5-round war. It was 1 minute. It wasn't even a minute. Yeah. Incredible. Anyway, let's talk about what's opening this main card. I think this is the fight you're most excited about, isn't it?
Joe. It's a Du Plessis versus Darren Till. I didn't get that across. What a fight that is! It's a perfect matchup between explosive striker and intelligent counter striker.
Is the fight you want? Is my prediction, which is a 15-minute back and forth nonsense, or do you want the finish to be in there?
No, I want some back and forth. Look, Darren Till, he is English. We are English. Hold on, I'm talking brother.
Yes.
We don't want to go down the Paddy Pimblett line with that, but we both have English passports. Yes. And Darren Till, he's been an exciting fighter. I want him to come through it. But this fight then, Bryce Mitchell versus Ilia Topuria. These guys they don't have the questions around them.
No.
They've both been on the come up. They've both got pretty flawless records.
Yeah.
15-0 for Bryce Mitchell and 12-0 for Topuria.
Oh man, I can't wait for this. I cannot wait.
Somebody's O's got to go, Joe.
Someone's O has got to go. I think this fight is just absolutely tremendous. I absolutely love this fight. First of all, Bryce Mitchell's going to be facing a guy who can grapple and who can wrestle. It's going to be interesting to see, though, because this is the first time Topuria is facing a guy who's kind of got actual wrestling ability. Like, he fought Ryan Hall, but Ryan Hall's takedown... that was one of the most bizarre performances I've ever seen from Ryan Hall, where Topuria just waited for him. He even said this in an interview last week, where he was for some Spanish podcast, and he was talking about this, where he said, like, I was going to wait for him to do his rolls, and then for him to end up in an awkward position, and then attack from there. So he was... allowing him to do that, and he was fine with him doing it, as weird as it looked, because he knew that opportunity for the hammer fist was going to be there and to get him out there. So, great fight IQ from there as well.
Listeners, can we just take a moment to appreciate the depth that we go to on Hold On to Together? We're not talking about English language podcast now. Joe doesn't even speak Spanish. He's there for it. He's listening in.
I lived in Peru.
He wants all the details.
But Ryan Hall gets grappling exchanges. Okay, if we're going to say who's a better grappler, Ryan Hall or Bryce Mitchell, there's no question it's Ryan Hall. But to get to those grappling exchanges, Bryce Mitchell's got a much more linear wrestling approach, getting into takedowns, getting into double legs from there. And to do that, Mitchell will use the kicks, sort of press you back up against the cage, and then get into boxing range so then he can slip into takedowns from there. The problem from that is that Topuria can crack, and he can crack hard.
And he has a 100% takedown defense in the UFC.
Yes. This is the first time I think it's going to be properly tested, though. You know, I don't think Damon Jackson's got the same wrestling as Bryce Mitchell. He doesn't. No offense to Damon Jackson, but he doesn't. But Mitchell, though, this is the first time he's facing a guy who's got really heavy hands. I went back and watched the Barbosa fight for Bryce Mitchell, and at the end of the first round, they're circling against the cage, and Barbosa starts throwing body shots, like lead hooks to the body, and Mitchell was giving some big reactions to that, and you could see he was gasping a little bit, and he wasn't responding very well.
We're marking his card for reacting to getting hit by Edson Barbosa.
Yeah, but what with the boxing?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, come on. I haven't seen many fighters shrug off. Yeah, well, he's an athlete, Barbosa. Yeah. He's an athlete. We know he's got to finish from every angle, every type of finish you can imagine. I don't know. The man hits hard. I'm not going to discount.
Well, as does Topuria.
Yeah.
As does Topuria. And so this is the interesting. I think that's the crux of the fight.
Are you saying then that Bryce, he needs to be able to withstand this matchup on the feet? So for Bryce to win, it has to be work into a grappling position up against the cage, having backed him up with those kicks, take down and control him on the mat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Work towards a submission. Probably not get it, but ground control time. That's how Bryce
ground
Mitchell
and
can win
pound as well. That's the great thing about Mitchell's grappling, is that he puts you in a position of, okay, defend the choke, right, or try and get up,
get whopped,
but you're getting ground and pound, or just block me from there, and I'm going to get mount.
Like, which one would you choose, Joe?
I would just. I'm a tough.
You want to be mounted?
Yeah. I'm a big, strong man, so I'll just tough it out, like, you know.
Right.
Bryce Mitchell, that is not an offer, by the way, for you to fight me, because I know you would absolutely destroy me. But let's just put that out there.
It's beef. He's beefing. Joe's beefing.
Bryce, if you tell me the Earth's flat, the Earth's flat. Don't worry. Okay, should we just go to our picks for this fight? What do you think?
Well, I'd like to hear a little bit more about Topuria. What's his route to victory here?
The hands. Like, he's just gonna. I mean, the fight from this year against Jai Herbert, where, I mean, the combination. He got dropped by Herbert, but he showed that toughness, came back, and through that combo where backed Herbert up, head, body, head, and left Herbert lying there in his own blood, basically. It was a brutal knockout. That's the crux of this, is who's going to get their signature skill off more.
But so you're saying that Topuria, you don't expect him to implement any kind of wrestling game. He doesn't want to get in that arena with Bryce. He doesn't want to be with him on the mat. Are you saying that?
I'm saying that if Topuria is going to implement wrestling, it's going to be on the defensive side. And I think if he does go for wrestling on the offensive side, it'll be later in rounds. It'll be later in rounds that maybe he could, you know, ride out the round for a victory. It'll be that sort of thing. Maybe work towards some ground and pound. Because the other thing is, I wouldn't risk it with Mitchell on his back either. I don't think that's worth the risk at all. So
I'm looking at this fight slightly different.
Go on.
I'm looking at this fight. Well, I think, you know, this is a man from a Greco-Roman background. He's Georgian. Georgia is next to Dagestan, Joe. Let me tell you. No, I'm just saying, some of them are crossing the mountains. The knowledge is spreading around there, and I think Topuria has absorbed some of that knowledge. I expect to see a wrestling heavy matchup.
Really?
Yeah, because I think Bryce, as you say, he needs to work into those clinch positions. So that he needs that to happen. I don't think Topuria's, for me, he's not going to be looking to outpoint the rangier fighter, the man who is going to be getting off those kicks. I think Topuria is going to need to wrestle. The question is, how much does he welcome it? What happens when they meet? And I think Topuria is a bit better than we're maybe giving him credit for here.
I think he's a fantastic wrestler, by the way. I just don't know if he's going to take that risk of going into those exchanges with Mitchell. Maybe he will, as I said, later in rounds, test the water. If he's won that first round clearly on the feet, he might go into that. Or if he's going up against the cage, if he gets a suitable position where he could hold a dominant position. I think maybe, I don't know. Again, I really can't. I don't actually have a clear picture for this fight, which is why I've gone for a slightly... Go on.
Well, I'm just thinking about let's take the Mitchell performance, the Black Country banger. All right?
Against Herbert.
For Topuria. Jai Herbert, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking about Ilia Topuria's last win. All right? For me, the fight went like that because of Topuria's ego.
Yeah.
He wanted to get that one back. Once he had been dropped, he wanted to show he could mix it up on the feet.
Right.
I think the coaches in the back room, they weren't looking for that kind of fight.
No.
I think they wanted to see, take him down, ground and pound. I think that is Topuria's base for me. But the man has an ego. We see that in the press conferences. He's describing himself as a king coming into your country when he's talking with Paddy Pimblett. That whole thing that's developing there. I think Topuria has an ego, and he hasn't met someone who can rob him of that. I think if he's not going to be challenged egotistically, you're going to see his wrestling game excel, and I think it's good enough to withstand what Bryce has to offer. So I picked Topuria to win by decision.
I've gone for the same pick. I've got Topuria by decision. And I think it is... I think in those wrestling exchanges, he will be able to potentially hold position. I just think, again, going into that ego thing of if Bryce gets something up on him and it's a threat from there, is he going to think like, well, I've got to get that back? Like, I can't let you win something over me. Like, the psychology of this fight is interesting as well. Because I also feel like Mitchell is kind of a bit, like, unheralded in some ways because of how weird he is. Like, his outside life. It's...
You're talking about the auctioning his bloody boxers off, having cut his ball sack.
Yeah, put a screw through his ball, his scrotum. Yes.
It was some weird sex game gone wrong, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't want to know. It's. I know he lives in a caravan with a load of sheep. Bryce, whatever you want to do, you do that. Okay. But yeah, I've gone for Topuria by decision. I just think the power in the hands is going to be too much of a deal breaker.
Who do you want to win?
I would like Topuria to win.
I'd prefer Bryce to win.
Would you?
Yeah, I would. I'm all about that brand, Joe. Flat Earth, Arkansas,
Yeah, fair enough.
Give me more of it. All right. Now, prelims.
Prelims.
We're both going to pick one fight.
Yeah, it's the only fight. What is there to talk about? Chris Curtis faces Joaquin Buckley. Joaquin Buckley has said this is his last fight on middleweight. He was actually going to move down to welterweight, but he got offered the Curtis fight. He was just like, well, I want to take it. I want to get another fight in before the end of the year. And my word, what a fight for our boy Numancer Joaquin the Buck Buckley. This is just tremendous. A great matchup, though, isn't it, Tom?
Fantastic, yeah. None of that tall French sophistication that he had to go through. Imamov, we're talking about you in Paris. Buckley won that last round anyway, basically won the fight.
Yeah.
Instead, he's going to fight a man of his own size, his own stature and height. Actually, Buckley goes in with the reach advantage, Joe.
Oh, my word.
Woohoo!
Oh, my God. This is going to be fireworks,
You know what that
isn't
means?
It? This is fun.
Yeah. There's no way around it. Curtis, a man who's heavy on the hands, doesn't know a whole lot more, as we saw in his last fight against Jack Hermansson.
Yeah.
Wow. Can't wait.
This is why this isn't on the main card. Like, when I found that the Lawler had pulled out, I'm like, Pons, I love you, but you're getting off that main card. That would have been my pick. Get down to that prelims with Morono, and Buck, Curtis, you're up on that main card. But not to be. I will be watching that live. I think I'm going to stay up to watch that one because it is the first fight on the prelims. And I love Joaquin. I love the buck. Like I can't deny it, Tom. Okay.
100% with you there, Joe. But Chris Curtis, he's not a pushover. He's not an easy matchup. No, you know, Hermansson made it look simple, but plenty of men have felt those hands. Good fundamentals as a boxer.
For sure. Good countering.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about another fight on the prelims just very quickly. Edmund Shabazian is back versus Dulce Lungiambula. It gives me Shabazian gives me the feels of Till right now. Of like, I don't know what's going to turn up. I hope something new comes in, because if this is a straight boxing match, Shabazian wins this. But if Lungiambula is like, right, I got one round of cardio, I'm telling him, you take him down straight away. No messing. I want to see that tested. I want to see if Shabazian has actually improved. I think that's a fair assessment, don't you think?
Yeah, I do, Joe. I mean, the big question for me is, if you get hit by Lungiambula, how do you react? And the reaction from Shabazian against lesser physical specimens than Lungiambula has not been good recently.
No.
So, yeah, similar type of matchup. I'm with you there, Joe.
Yeah, for sure.
To the Till one.
Right, I want to talk about the news very quickly. 2 pieces of news I want to talk about. Dana White said that Conor is coming back next year and that he has his fight planned out for him. Tom, Dana White wants Conor McGregor in a main event versus Michael Chandler. Now, yes, there is the heavy nod. Yes, that is what we want. Fun, celebrity fight. Give it to me. All that action. Get Chandler on the juice. Fuck it. Get him on the juice right now. Let's see how big he can get those pecs, Tom.
I don't think you need to encourage Michael Chandler. He will be on that juice, that special sauce.
Yeah.
No, that's good matchmaking. We called for it here. Is it at 170?
I don't know. Probably. Fuck it. Make it middleweight. Who cares?
Hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is hilarious. The only chance that these guys have to fight at welterweight is against each other.
Yeah.
2 men who possibly could be at featherweight or have been previously. Yeah, I'm all for it, Joe. It makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. UFC,
like instinct right now. Who do you lean towards there?
I hope the Chandler that faced Poirier turns up, and he's just like,
Fish hooks him.
Fish hook, dirty takedowns. I want to see the filthiest fight known to man. I want that. I just want it. I want that absolute dirtiest.
Chandler wins a dirty fight.
Yeah, for sure. I want, you're staggering home late at night, and what's that on the wall? On like as you're walking home, it's a half-eaten Big Mac. I want that level of filth. Okay, I want that level of dirtiness. Give me that now. Also, Tom, UFC released their schedule for the new year, for the first quarter of the year. Interesting news. Couple pay-per-view announcements. You got the one in January in Brazil. You've got one in Australia in February, headlined by Volkanovski versus Makhachev. And then in March 4th, they have a pay-per-view in Las Vegas. And then March 18th, they have a pay-per-view in London. Interesting. London one is probably going to be Edwards versus Usman 3, most likely. What's that March 4th going to be, Tom? Well, the return of John Jones seems imminent. And it seems like it's going to be against Mr. Francis Ngannou.
No way. They're getting it done.
They might have got it done by the
All I want for Christmas is a new contract for Francis Ngannou, Joe.
Now, listen. I can see this now. UFC, Christmas Day, make the announcement. Ngannou Jones, March 4th. I mean, Jesus Christ. That's the fight of the year right there. Like, no question.
I mean, this is the last PPV of the year, Joe. They do like to sneak in these big news. Maybe we'll get to hear some of that coming up on Saturday night.
Oh, my word. Could you imagine? Oh, my word. The pop. Right. Tom, let's go through our picks one more time for the main card. This time starting at the bottom. Bryce Mitchell versus Ilia Topuria. Both gone for Topuria by decision.
Oh, Joe, there's controversy.
What?
I've just had another look at that notebook. We know it was written haphazard and rushed.
No, you don't get to change it.
All right, in that case, I'm sticking with Topuria. I'm happy with that.
What did you put?
I can't reveal that now, Joe. It's official, but...
Okay. Till versus Du Plessis. I've gone for Du Plessis by decision. You've gone for Du Plessis by knockout.
Yeah.
Ponzinibbio versus Morono. Pons by knockout for me. Pons by decision for you, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
Pimblett versus Gordon. Pimblett by submission for me. And
Decision for me.
Decision for you. And in the main event, we've both gone for Magomed Ankalaev by decision over Jan Blachowicz, thus becoming the new light heavyweight champion. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week to break down this card, go over the X's and O's, and matchmake. And Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
God bless, Joe.
And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back next week. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.